Let's make one thing clear. Last year's series reboot Tomb Raider was already a great-looking game, but the developers at Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics just weren't satisfied. Enter Tomb Raider Definitive Edition for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Boosting the frame rate, setting the native resolution at a crisp 1080p, and recreating the model of Lara Croft to look and act more realistic is what the developers strove for. They succeeded. Tomb Raider Definitive Edition is one of the best looking games on current-gen consoles, since, next-gen was so 3 months ago. The increased detail in the environments and Lara Croft herself make for a very pleasurable and exciting experience. It's the visuals, gameplay, and story that make the Definitive Edition a great addition to your collection. Lara Croft. That's all I should have to say about the improved character model for the iconic video game character. The developers claimed they were going for realism when recreating the model for the Definitive Edition, with the inclusion of realistic hair physics and humanistic qualities in the face. For the most part, they succeed. There were several times where Lara's hair acted quite strangely, such as when she's hanging upside down and her hair is still in its original position instead of the gravity pulling it down. These moments are rare, but they are quite noticeable. The environments also feel like they have seen a touch-up from the developers, but that may only be due to the native resolution of 1080p. These environments made me pause and take in the scene. The overall visual styling absolutely pulls this game together and makes it a believable living world. Chugging along through the main storyline, or exploring the environments finding collectibles, Tomb Raider Definitive Edition is enjoyable. The increase in the frame rate from 30 frames per second to 60 frames per second provide for excellent cinematic moments, whether that be from combat or traversing the environment. But what would Tomb Raider be without being able to raid some tombs? There are several optional tombs spread throughout the game that provide for some enjoyable experiences. The tombs are a series of puzzles ranging from figuring out where to climb to weight distribution. I never found these particular side objectives difficult, but with all of them being able to be solved within 30 or so minutes. Combat is smooth and varied, providing for some very intelligent enemy types and upgradable weaponry. Unlike many other action-adventure games, I found all of the provided weapons useful and enjoyable to use. The scarcity of ammunition was also a key feature I heavily enjoyed. Oh, and melee kills are absolutely brutal.
Lara, are you there? Alex said that you're on your way down.
I should be there soon. I need to tell you something.
The story of Tomb Raider Definitive Edition still features the same riveting and exciting story as last year's version. Throwing out the traditional Tomb Raider absurdities of the past, the developers went after a more realistic and dark story for Lara Croft. Serving as an origin story of sorts, Lara Croft starts off as a woman trying to get away from the reputation of her father and make a life of her own. Throughout the story, we see Miss Croft evolve from a woman just trying to survive after an accident into the ultimate badass we all know. As a player, you gain an emotional connection to Lara and the other characters throughout the story. It's a type of emotion and connection that so few women characters get in video games, which Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix knock out of the park. She is a character who is strong and dynamic as any other video game character, even when the game deals with many dark issues such as rape and murder. Even when tackling these themes, Tomb Raider Definitive Edition allows the player to empathize with Lara Croft. Tomb Raider Definitive Edition provides for an exciting experience, one that every fan of the action-adventure genre should experience. If you played last year's version of Tomb Raider, the Definitive Edition may not be worth the full price tag. However, the Definitive Edition is worth the full price if you have either 1. Never played last year's Tomb Raider, or 2. Want an action-adventure game on a current-gen console, even if the multiplayer is terrible.